Hello, good afternoon, GGC. I hope everyone is absolutely fantastic today. Please give me a hashtag live if you're watching this live. And if you are watching live, please feel free to join in and agree and disagree, ask questions. Sometimes it can get a bit lonely sitting here myself. So if you're watching, please just join in. Join in. If you're watching this on the replay, please give me a hashtag replay as well. And if you have any questions about what's happening just now, if you have questions throughout this live, just pop them below and I will come back and I will answer them. My name is Claire Innes and I am the founder of the Fertility Mentor, and I am so very proud to be the resident fertility expert here at the GGC. So I help burned out women carry, conceive, and just basically have healthy babies, healthy pregnancies, even if they've been told they can't. And I need to just get this off my chest right now. I am such a spanner. I started this live at 3 o'clock, dead on 3 o'clock, and for 20 minutes, I thought I was live in my personal profile, which isn't set up to go live in this group. So yeah, I'm a dafty. I was kind of thinking, why is nobody joining in? Why is nobody here? What's going on? Is this actually going out live? So I hope this is going out live. I really, really hope it is. And if you see this, please tell me. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about, I've put in the comments below the questions that we've had already. These are questions that have either been sent to me directly or questions that have been posted in the GGC that I've decided to come and kind of talk about here. So we're going to be talking specifically about PCOS, how does that affect our fertility, and how to improve our chances. Then we're going to be doing the exact same thing with endometriosis. How does endometriosis affect fertility and how do we improve it? Next thing I wanted to talk about was just my advice and tips on actually dealing with your medical team, how to advocate for yourself, what your rights are, what you can and should expect, because I know this is something that a lot of women in Glasgow and around, and actually all around the world, but I know a lot of women are really struggling with this. Next, I want to talk about private hormone testing because that's something that was posted about just this week. And then we're going to talk a little bit about hycosis and what is involved in a hycosis and the level of pain you should expect and what kind of information you should expect to get out of it. And then we're going to talk a little bit about weight loss whilst TTC. Now, please humour me because nobody's commented yet, which is fine if we are actually live, but if we're not actually live, it's quite worrying. So let me just check on my phone. Okay, we are live. Tickety boo, perfect. Right, I'm going to keep an eye on my phone just in case the comments are coming through there and not coming through in the comments here on the desktop. Right, so a little bit more about the Fertility Mentor. I started the Fertility Mentor about 3 years ago. At the time, I was working in menopause health, and I had a massive light bulb moment when a client who had given up trying to conceive, she had PCOS, basically just wanted to survive menopause, and she fell pregnant naturally, basically through kind of lifestyle interventions, making changes to her nutrition and her mindset. And it absolutely blew my mind. And that was basically that was the absolute birth of the Fertility Mentor. And since then, we've gone from strength to strength. It is my absolute pride and joy to help women fall pregnant, stay pregnant, become mums. And it's been my absolute pride and joy to do this with the support of the GGC. So, all ladies in the GGC, if you're a member of the GGC, you're very much entitled to a free consultation with me. It'll be on Zoom and it'll be me in this room. Nobody else will be involved, and we will brainstorm your journey to date. And I will give you advice based on what you tell me and what I think needs to happen next. If I think that you would be a good candidate for one of my programs, whether it's one-to-one or whether it's hybrid coaching, I'll explain that to you too. And if I don't, then I'll send you off with a reading list or a referral to a colleague or something useful so that your time hasn't been wasted. Typically, my clients are 35 and up, and they tend to fall into one or some of the following groups. A lot of my clients are looking to reduce their BMI, and they want to do this in a way that is good for their fertility. So that might be because they want to improve their chances of trying naturally, or because they need to hit a certain weight so that they can go forward with the NHS. Now, regardless of my feelings or your feelings about BMI as a measure, this is what the NHS and the private clinics use. So that is what we need to kind of follow along with. So I love helping my clients lose weight sustainably, but in a way that is going to help their egg quality. I am not a fan at all of high street diets or meal plans just being issued to people willy-nilly without knowing what their current circumstances are. On the other side of that, I also love helping women increase their BMI. So I've worked with many women who have lost their menstrual cycle. They don't ovulate anymore because either through um, chronic low body weight or chronic stress, they've lost their menstrual cycle. So their body has shut down that part of the system, the operating system, because it goes into fight or flight and it decides, okay, this is not essential for survival, so we will close down reproduction until we feel more comfortable that we are going to make it another year, another 6 months, all the things. Okay. So I love helping women consume more, get their BMI up, bring their period back, and have babies. A lot of my clients are 40 and up, and they are worrying about their egg reserve. They're worrying about how much time they have left to have a baby. This is one of my absolute favorite things to do in my specialties. I educate women on the importance of egg quality, which they can influence, versus egg quantity, which they absolutely can't influence. I also love working with women who have conditions that can affect fertility, such as thyroid issues, PCOS, endometriosis, all the things. So, if you are looking to have a baby and you are either struggling to fall pregnant or struggling to stay pregnant, you're the type of person that I want to be talking to. I only work with women. I specialise in women's hormones. No offence to any men who shouldn't be watching this because they shouldn't be in this group. But yeah, I like to help women fall pregnant, and I will help you communicate with your partner if that's something you think is needed. But my clients are all female. So let's actually get stuck into the questions. First thing we're going to talk about is PCOS. We talked about that in quite a bit of detail on the last live, and I'll link that below in the comments. But I thought it would be useful today just to take a step back and actually just talk a little bit about what is PCOS, how does it manifest itself, and at what point does it become relevant in a fertility journey. So PCOS or PCOS stands for polycystic ovary syndrome. Okay, now this is a condition typically where small cysts are growing on the ovaries, but you do not need to have had a scan to have a diagnosis of PCOS. PCOS, as per NICE guidelines, is now diagnosed based on symptoms. So some of the symptoms of PCOS tend to be hirsutism. So because typically with PCOS there's elevated androgen levels. Androgens are just the male sex hormones. We all have them. We've all heard of testosterone. In PCOS, typically androgen levels are higher. So that can cause hirsutism, or just basically it can cause our body to behave in a bit more masculine a manner. Alongside this, the reason PCOS can be bad news for fertility is that quite often with PCOS, we do not ovulate, or we have very irregular menstrual cycles, which means that we are not having the right amount of time to grow the estrogen, release the egg, the progesterone to hold it long enough to implant and become a viable pregnancy. And that really is, I mean, there's many symptoms of PCOS. Most PCOS cases, in fact, 70% of them are insulin resistant. There's 4 different types of PCOS, but the vast majority are going to be insulin resistant. And that insulin resistance can make it very difficult for women to lose weight. And that can create barriers again, either to be taken seriously by your doctor or to be referred for help if you need assisted reproductive technology. There's many things that I do to help women with PCOS, but the main thing, if I was to say, right, okay, if someone was to ask me, what is the one main thing you would suggest for women with PCOS to improve their fertility, it is absolutely to look at their nutrition. Okay. I'm not a fan at all of skipping breakfast. Breakfast is the first opportunity of every day to get that all important protein in there. With PCOS, especially insulin resistant, we see a lot of spikes, don't we? Consuming carbohydrates can cause spikes in our insulin levels. That is not good news. So the main takeaway I would say, if you have PCOS and you're looking to balance out your hormones, is make sure you are consuming lovely lean protein and lovely healthy fats and plenty of fiber at every meal to minimize those insulin spikes. That's the one key thing I would suggest. And that is also likely to be helpful if you are trying to lose weight. It's relevant even if you're not trying to lose weight, but it is likely to be helpful if you are, because the protein and the fats are going to keep us fuller for longer, and they're going to minimize those cravings that come with these big peaks and troughs in our blood glucose levels. Okay, next we're going to talk about same question, but for so endometriosis is a condition, it's an inflammatory condition, and it can really, really affect the lives of women who suffer from it. It's normally scarring either in the womb, the uterus, sometimes it can be on the fallopian tubes, sometimes it can actually be on the ovaries themselves, and it can be very, very painful. Often women with endometriosis will have exhaustion, fatigue, absolute burnout during their menstrual cycle. Very often they can be in a lot of pain from the menstrual cycle, from cramping and from the inflammation. It's a very, very difficult condition to live with. And when I work with women who have endometriosis, I like to explain to them the reason that endometriosis can affect your fertility. Well, there's actually several reasons. There's actually probably hundreds, but the ones that I see time and time again tend to be the pain and the discomfort can, in some cases, actually make it difficult to have intercourse. Even if that is not the case, the endometrial scarring can cause blockages for the egg and the sperm to meet. And then, of course, there's just the environment. That environment of inflammation can be so difficult to grow a baby. Now, the good news is, and this is a bit of a head fuck, but a lot of women who have endometriosis, when they fall pregnant, because when they're pregnant they don't menstruate, their symptoms improve vastly. But there's no doubt that it is harder to fall pregnant with endometriosis and PCOS, especially naturally. So the one takeaway that I would give if you have endometriosis, again keeping this nutrition based because that's my specialty, is minimize inflammation any way you can. Eat an anti-inflammatory diet. Include lots of lovely healthy fats just to calm down that inflammation. Absolutely minimize trans fats because they promote inflammation. So you want to be incorporating lots of lovely seeds, nuts, really healthy oils, salmon, oily fish, avocado. These are the things that are going to really bring down that inflammation. And of course, keep your body moving. Okay, that's one of the best ways to deal with inflammation as well. And I know I feel so bad saying that because if you're watching this and you have endometriosis and you're listening to me saying move around more, that's all right for me to say, but what if you need to go to bed for a week every month because you're in so much pain with your endo symptoms? So don't try and do everything overnight. Please make sure you're treating yourself with kindness and with grace and with love. I would suggest working on one thing at a time. So making sure you're hydrated, spend a week making sure that you're flushing out all those toxins, that you're peeing clear, and then spend another week just making sure that wherever you can, you're swapping those rubbish, inflammatory dietary fats for those happy, healthy dietary fats. And hopefully that will give you some improvement, which will help your energy levels go up, that'll help you keep up with your steps. Excuse me, or do a yoga class, or do something that's going to help you. Okay, so 1 second, I'm just going to check to see if there's been any comments so far. Absolute frog in my throat, but I'm not surprised, given I sat and talked for half an hour. Okay, I'm not seeing this at all. Yeah, no comments yet. That's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to crack on as planned. Next, we're going to talk about communicating with our medical teams. So we are Glasgow girls. The vast majority of us will be using the NHS. We'll be using our local GP. And I see very, very often women being fobbed off or sent away. And I just thought this was a really useful time to talk about your rights and when you should be presenting to your GP. So this is all taken from the NHS Scotland website. The rules are the same throughout Scotland. We don't have to deal with the postcode lottery that women in England and Wales need to deal with. It's all quite straightforward in Scotland, which is fantastic. If you've been trying to conceive for a year without any luck and you are 35 or under, then at that point you should be going to your doctor. If you are 36 and up, that number comes down to 6 months. You also have the right, and you should be talking to your doctor at any point when you start trying to conceive if you know that you have or you suspect that you have conditions that are likely to affect your fertility, such as we've already talked about, PCOS, endometriosis, anovulation, irregular periods. You can, if you have these things going on, you can present to the doctor earlier. Now, I think it's really important to distinguish trying to conceive for up to a year, or trying that when we talk about that number, that is the amount of time that you have been off, you haven't been using contraception. So the normal thing that happens is you'll come off the pill or you'll come off the jag and you'll spend 6 months just seeing what happens, because we don't want to wish anything on ourselves. We want it to feel nice and natural. And then after that 6 months, you'll probably start tracking your BBT or peeing on strips and getting a lot more involved. My preference is that you start that 1 year timer from when you come off the pill, because that is when you've been having unprotected sex from. And that's what I want you to take to your doctor, because you want to be seen and taken seriously as soon as possible. If you have been having unprotected sex for a year, if you're up to 35, 6 months, if you're 36 and up, please go to your doctor and know that it is your right to be taken seriously. Ask them to test you. If they refuse to either test your bloods or refer you to fertility, in the UK, we all have the option to ask for a second opinion, but what you can also do is ask for them to put in writing, put on your file why they're declining it. Okay, and I do take this very, very seriously. I'm still working with clients who are dealing with backlogs from the coronavirus because there was so much backup. And I know so many people who work so hard for the NHS, but the NHS is under an awful, awful, awful lot of pressure. But as a fertility coach and as a fertility advocate, the absolute last thing I want is for your journey not to be taken seriously. You want to get pregnant, you want the test done as quickly as possible, because it might be, don't want to frighten anyone, but say you do need to go for IVF or IUI, you might need to wait another year to get onto that list. It's different kind of per health board. We know that the waiting lists are all different, but please advocate for yourself and don't feel bad about doing that. We're Glaswegians, we've been brought up not to disagree with the doctor, don't rock the boat with the doctor. I absolutely adore the NHS. But I think it's important that you ladies know how to stick up for yourself, how to advocate for yourself, and know what your rights are. Okay? Next thing I'm going to talk about, if I can get this frog out of my throat, is private hormone testing. Okay, so this was an anonymous post. She said, is there a private fertility clinic that can just do sperm analysis for the men and in-depth blood tests for women? No disrespect to the NHS, but the test results are very basic and vague, and we're currently discussing a second round of IVF. I would like to get a bit more in-depth detail if anyone can recommend a private clinic. So that was from an anonymous poster last week, and there's been a few really helpful comments. Most of them tend to be recommending GCRM, and I have heard very, very good things about GCRM. But I also spoke to a client today, and she used Randox in Glasgow, and she found their kind of panel testing to be very, very useful as well. She was given kind of feedback by the doctor on what's normal, what she can work on, what she should be prioritising. So I just wanted to say I'm not affiliated with anyone at all, by the way, but I did want to say that I've recently, since that post put up, heard good things about Randox. For more basic ones, you can use, companies like Fertility. This is where they post it out to you and you send it back to them and they run the tests. But it doesn't sound like you want basic. It sounds like this poster knows what she needs, wants to take control. So I would say definitely look at GCRM or Randox, and of course do your own research, read the reviews, see what everyone's saying about them, and all that good stuff. Okay, hi cozy. This is something that comes up time and time and time again. Very often when women are struggling to have a baby, they will be referred to gynae, and gynae will say that we want to do a high cozy scan on you. And it tends to fill women with dread because they think it's going to be very, very painful and very, very difficult. So I just wanted to kind of demystify it a little bit, talk a bit more about it because I am actually a very big fan of these scans. So a high cozy is a super, super, super useful tool that can be used to assess your fallopian tubes. Okay, so if you were to go into a typical ultrasound or a typical x-ray, it's not going to show what's going on there. But if they do a high cozy, it is so useful because it is done mostly by ultrasound and it's non-invasive. So it's so much less convenient. They don't need to knock you out. You don't need a few days in hospital. It's much less risky than a laparoscopy. And the way they make this happen is that they will flush a saline solution through the fallopian tubes to enable the ultrasound to see what's going on there. Okay. Now, some women say and this is they're saying this because it's their truth. Some women say that their hypose was very, very painful. I'm not going to deny that for some women a hypose is very uncomfortable and it is very, very painful. But what I will also say is it's like anything else in life. If we have a bad experience, we'll probably tell 10 people something. If we have a normal experience, we might not tell anyone. And if we have a really good experience, we might tell one or two people. Okay. It's not a nice thing to have to do in the first place, is it? Like getting in, pants off, legs in stirrups. There's nothing about that that's kind of fun and comfortable. And I don't care who you are. So you're not feeling great to start with. And then, yes, for some women, there will be quite a bit of pain. But, and no disrespect to those women, a lot of those women are my clients. But just remember, people are more likely to talk about it if it was painful than if it was not. Okay? The truth is that it's not that usual at all for it to be quite so painful. It's normally only that level of pain when there is some kind of blockage, which, if there is, we definitely want to know about it. Okay, so if there is a blockage in your fallopian tube and you're trying to have a baby, then even if it's very painful, in my opinion, it's worth the pain to find out that that's happening. Okay. Also, if there's endoscarring or other inflammatory scarring in that area, that can be painful then as well. Most women will experience just a mild discomfort, not that much worse than if you were going for a smear test. It's not nice, it's not comfortable, it's not the best. But for most women, it's not that terrible. And for the women who do experience really, really, really bad pain and a lot of discomfort, a lot of them will still say it was worth it because they found out what was going on. The pain was caused by the issue. They found out what the issue was. They were able to make a plan to fix it and move on. Okay? Nobody wants to be in pain. In most cases, though, you are in and out in 30 minutes. The hospital are not going to put you to sleep or medicate you for it, but you are welcome to take painkillers about an hour beforehand, and I would recommend that you do that. Okay? Even if it's very painful, it is usually worthwhile. It allows your medical team to know what's actually going on and make a plan to treat it. And the other kind of upside of it is it can improve fertility. So just the process of that flushing can just clear it on its own. And there's many studies that show improved rates of fertility, improved rates of conception in the 6 months after a hypocausia. So please do not fear the hypocausia. It's not going to be the best day of your life. It's not going to be like a night out in Ibiza, but it is a bit of a necessary evil and it's much safer and much less invasive than other methods. Okay? And again, please feel free to agree or disagree with me on this. If you have been there, if you have done that, please tell us your experience. One of my big goals is to kind of demystify and democratize fertility. So the more you know, the better. Let's share. This is a lovely, safe, happy group. Okay, next we have, I'm just going to read word for word from a lovely lady who has posted. She said, I have PCOS and possibly endometriosis, and I'm awaiting my diagnostic laparoscopy. Me and my husband have been trying since 2021 for a baby, and it's just not happened. I've been taking different vitamins and trying to lose weight. However, those with PCOS will know it can be a losing game. My BMI is too high currently for help from the doctors. Has anyone got any tips for the things that they've tried or had any success with? All me and my husband want is to become parents. We have everything else, and I feel so alone. Okay, so well done for this. This was an anonymous post, but well done for putting this out there. I'm sure that a lot of women are in the exact same place as you, and it probably actually made them feel validated to know that they're not the only ones feeling this way. So I think that was a really, really brave thing for you to post. And yes, I actually have lots and lots and lots of ideas on how you can bring down your BMI, on how you can improve the quality of your eggs, and how you can manage your PCOS symptoms. So if you go back to the beginning of this video, you'll see I was talking about how to build your meals. Make sure you are having 3 meals a day. I actually have a free cookbook. I'll put the link for that below as well. Please do not skip breakfast, and please make sure every single meal consists of these things. Portion of healthy fats. So by that I would normally mean either plant-based fats like olive oil, seeds, nuts, avocado, or fatty fish. Okay, so that's where you're going to get your healthy fats from. Very important for minimizing your inflammation. I also want every meal to have a good portion of lean protein. Now, I went through an example before of a normal Western woman's diet, and this is an example that I use all the time, but I just think it's so relatable and so useful. When a woman first starts working with me, she is working really, really hard and she's trying to lose weight, and she'll get up and she will skip breakfast and have coffee instead, which is bad news because she's missing the first chance to get protein and she is possibly triggering that inflammation and possibly shooting up her cortisol levels by having lots of coffee on empty. Okay, the same woman won't go to the pub at lunch with her colleagues because she's being good, so she'll go get something like a Boots meal deal. And in her mind, that's her being good. But that Boots meal deal, say it's like a chicken salad sandwich, a Diet Coke, and a packet of crisps, that is actually twice the amount of carbohydrates as it is protein. So I absolutely advocate for studying and understanding the macronutrients you're putting into your body. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not a fan of aiming for perfection at all, but you really, really want to make your macronutrients, so your protein, your carbs, and your fats, you want to make them equal in terms of the amount of calories that's coming from them. So, tracking your food is a good first step. This is something that I help clients with all the time, every day. It doesn't need to be as much of a ball ache as it sounds. Back to what we're doing. So every meal, lovely healthy fats, lovely good source of protein. Okay, so a couple of pieces of ham in a sandwich is not going to be enough. One slice of bacon is just not going to be enough. I'm looking for a good 150, 125 to 150 grams of lean protein with each meal. And that's going to minimize these insulin spikes that you're very probably having and the ills that actually explain why it's so hard for you to lose weight. And next, I want every meal to be really dense in fibre. So that might be vegetables. Almost every vegetable is a fertility superfood. Or also, I'm a massive fan of berries as well. So if you prefer a sweet breakfast, some sort of source of protein, maybe a protein powder, maybe it would be yogurt with berries and just a small portion of kind of whole grain oats or something like that. Excuse me. Each meal though needs to follow the same rules, and that is healthy fats, healthy proteins, slow release carbohydrates, and lots of veg. I can't stand when I see women who are trying to conceive over deprive themselves. Okay, that's just going to shoot that cortisol up. That's literally, it's not good at all for your hormones. Please do not starve yourself or over restrict yourself. It's better to swap, add in more good things. Okay, instead of thinking about taking away lots of things, think more about adding in more good things. And I'll remind you that as a GGC member, you are very, very, very welcome to book a completely free call with me to chat this through. This is something that I help women with every day. But 80% of your weight loss, that's 80, 4/5 of any weight loss is going to come through your nutrition. So if you only have, say, a spare 3 hours in the week to dedicate to, your weight loss or your journey, I would not advocate for spending all 3 of those hours in the gym. I would advocate for spending more time either in the kitchen or in the supermarket or poring over recipes. I mean, you cannot swing a dead cat on Instagram without finding really delicious looking high protein recipes. It doesn't need to be expensive, but I think your time needs to go. Oh, how wanky does this sound? Goes where energy flows or whatever that is. But yeah, if you've only got a certain amount of time in your life, which most of my clients do, I would send it where it's going to make the biggest difference. So really, really concentrate on your nutrition. There's an excellent book as well called It Starts with the Egg, and I recommend this book to absolutely every woman who is trying to conceive, whether you think that IVF might be in your future or whether you're trying naturally. It Starts with the Egg has got all of the data, there's no spurious claims. It gives you all of the studies, all of the data for why she makes certain recommendations. And I always say if you know why, you're more likely to do the do. Okay, so again, I'm just going to check to see if there's been any more comments put up. If not, I'm going to leave you to go on with your day. Nothing yet. Okay, ladies, if you're watching this, thank you so, so very much for your time. And I'm sorry that you're going through this. I'm sorry that you're having to deal with infertility. Not a lot of people know this, but infertility, the stress of infertility has been likened to the stress of a cancer diagnosis. It is very, very lonely. It's very, very difficult, and there is no way of knowing if you will get out with the result that you want and need. So I try to be really upbeat. and I don't really encourage people to have pity parties and stuff like that. I'm more of a right, let's take action, let's take control. But there is no getting away from the fact that infertility is hellish. It is really, really horrible. So I hope that you're treating yourself with kindness and love, and that you aren't beating yourself up too much, because I've seen that happen way too many times as well. And I'm here for you. And thank you, GGC, for having me. I'll see you later.